Who? Ciao, Peter.
Hey, Jumpy. You're in the dark or no?
No, not very much.
Good to see you.
It is more or less spring in Rome as well, although this morning when I went out with the dog, it was almost 0 degrees or 2 degrees.
Ooh.
But now it's already 12 degrees. So as soon as...
Here it was similar, although my wife walked the dog this morning. So.
Yes, but it's cold in the morning still.
Yeah.
Then it gets warmer.
Yeah.
Well, sooner or later, summer will come back and we will be able to go out.
Yeah.
Now in Italy, they are discussing exactly how to release all these interventions and lockdown measures. And the best bet right now is that, say, around the beginning of May, maybe restaurants will open again. That's the best bet, but it's still not decided.
No, it's hard. Italy is also relatively hard hit now, right?
Yes, the numbers are still high because vaccination has not been extremely quick, but vaccination is not extremely quick anywhere in Europe, as far as I understand.
Yeah, Hungary is pretty good, but or is quick, but they use apparently quite crap.
They use the Russian vaccine, right?
And but they still have 300 deaths per day on a population of 10 million. So.
Yes, I mean, no, news are strange. Apparently, the latest news is that the Chinese vaccine is not very good.
Yeah, and the Hungarians use that as well.
Yes.
Yeah, wow. I wonder how good it is. It's also my parents-in-law have the Chinovac vaccine. But I hope it will have some value if they want to visit us next year again.
I guess that the value of this vaccine is a combination of how good it is at protecting you from disease if you get it, and how good it is at diminishing transmission, because if it's kind of 50% at diminishing transmission but not so good against symptoms, then maybe it will work if the thing becomes subcritical anyway. On the other hand, it could be good at avoiding symptoms, but transmission will go on at some level. And then depends on the speed at which we vaccinate everybody. And I still haven't understood how good these vaccines are at avoiding transmission in the quantitative sense. They seem to be good at avoiding symptoms, but transmission seems to remain more unclear. Good morning, everybody.
Morning. Yeah, I think there have been a few reports that suggest that transmission is reduced as well, but I guess that wasn't what was tested in the trials. So.
No, and presumably just by reducing symptoms and other things, you should probably reduce transmission. That is the usual assumption. If you don't sneeze, then you expel less, but who knows? Mhm.
So I'm not sure who else was going to join us this morning. So whether we should
Well,
hold
we
for a
can
few
already
minutes.
begin by saying that we almost have a paper, I
Yeah.
would say.
Good. That's good to hear.
Jasmina's around.
I can
Oh.
also say that I've almost read it.
Yes, yes.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I always make the mistake of starting at the beginning, which is definitely, I need to start halfway through and to pay more attention to the second half. But I always seem to run out of time by the time I get to the later section.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Yeah.
Isn't that the case when you write paper? Your introduction is always the best because you've read it so many times and you start at the beginning, and at the end of the discussion feels like you patched the last bit.
It is a problem, but I agree that I have also read mostly the beginning and not so much the second part. So maybe a little bit more reading will not hurt. But
I read it all and I added some references. I think it's all very nice. It's Glenn, you've done a great job by
yes.
putting it all together. It looks very nice. I've added some references and then I didn't change. I read it more like a paper to read rather than to critique, because I wasn't sure what we needed to do, having missed the last few meetings.
I changed just a sentence or two this morning, so I think that's the latest version.
Yeah, I saw that.
I've saved as a PDF. I would suggest that we all read the PDF except Glenn, who is then reads. If Glenn does the Word document, then he has the power to change things, and if we have PDFs, we don't. So
Yeah.
while we're talking,
Unless
Okay.
we can do it with post notes and stuff, but yeah.
I have also put in some comments in the Dropbox just to confuse everybody. I noticed that I put the initials GP on it, which stands for Giampaolo. I don't know if that's what I've been using before, but anyway.
Yeah, mine are separate as well. So we've got a number of different documents there to combine at some point.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure that the one that Dennis is just the PDF is actually, it won't have everything on it, I don't think.
no, it
Yeah,
doesn't, does
no.
it? How confusing everyone is.
Yes.
Well, we all worked on it separately.
Yeah, it's not. It's
But
fine, it's fine.
anyway-
But I don't think there are many changes overall for people just looking at it. So it shouldn't be, if when you read through it, Glenn, you'll see how little, like you put outputs. It's not, I don't think you've done the big job already. This is
Yeah.
much less.
I agree, and mine were mostly wording. I mean, there are a few references and things, but mostly it's just tweaking wording and so on, which is, it's not nothing major. I thought the overall structure worked really well.
Yes.
And I
the
just
the structure is fine.
references where they were needed because were asking for them. So that's
Yeah,
kind of
I
what
saw that.
focused.
Thanks, Jasmina. That's really handy.
Anyway, I made it to the end and looked also at the figure, which is kind of nice.
Yes,
the
Everybody
figure.
looked at the figure.
I love the figure.
I thought it was really good.
Yes.
Good. Thanks.
So the figure could be or should be in.
Apart
it-
from the
where
fact that
is
there
the
is
eye-
no,
Sorry.
sorry.
No,
I was
you-
going to say, apart from the fact there's no pink color there. I mean, that's the only
There's
fact
no
I
pink.
have of it.
I'm sorry.
You can
Where-
make the yellow pink.
Where are you thinking of putting the figure, Glenn?
Well, I've referenced it first in like in the introduction. So
Yeah.
I guess it would come quite early. I think.
Good.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's. I think it's very good. In fact, I'm beginning to think, Valerie, that we should have a figure of some sort for every paper as a sort of
Yes.
signature of the volume. And at yesterday's one about data, I got this on the agenda, and of course we had Min Chen, who's the visualization expert there. So I suggested that Min should do a figure for that paper. So maybe if he takes that one on, we can then next step will be to ask him to do it for all the other papers. But I think we've got a nice one, so I don't think we need to.
But you know, you like the idea of a COVID kind of the virus structure. Maybe that would work quite well for a figure for the whole volume.
Yeah, I like the idea, Jazina. Okay, well, but the preface is going to be the preface is likely to be a bit boring. You know, prefaces always are. So I think a cheerful picture would much improve it.
So I mean, I think we could ask you, you could ask Min if he's done it, because he's an expert in these things. But but it would be very much like the virus.
Yeah, that was my thought with the policy one. My only disappointment was that the trouble is that the words we wanted, there were too many words. If you had a lot of short words, it would work very well on a picture of the virus, and that might work better for the whole volume. We'll think about it.
Just a question. Is there a vaccination paper?
Yes, but it's rather specialist. It's on vaccine trials, really, isn't it, Valerie? This is Bex.
I think so.
So I think the interventions paper, which is Miriam, is much broader, and I think the intention is that the interventions paper may pick up on some things to do with vaccination that are not covered by Betsy's paper. So
so that's why I'm asking, because
but if you want to look at it, but it'd be great if you'd like to look at the drafts of both and see if something's fallen down between the chinks.
And are you, Dennis or Valerie, joining the intervention call at 2:00?
I won't be able to today. I was going to send apologies. What about you?
I can
Dennis? Dennis, you will?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's because there are some questions there about contribution. There was an email circulating and conversations about, I was quite clear about contributions like we do in all the other papers, but it might be kind of good to be said by you. And things like, well, so if you come to that meeting, I can raise the question and then you can answer. And I've been working, they're asking about the vaccination is because we've been working on a vaccination part there that is kind of half telling the story. So I wondered if there was another one. Okay, so I'll read the two papers and then I will ask question if I have.
Okay. I think it hasn't quite worked out at the moment as we originally intended, in the sense that we thought there was too much in interventions to do all the vaccination stuff as well, probably. And so the idea was to split it in two. But in the event, the paper that Bets is doing is really very much focused on clinical trials. So all the other vaccination stuff has sort of shifted back to Miriam's paper again. And hopefully it will all fit there. Yeah.
Okay, let's continue here. Sorry to sideline us, not sideline us. What is this? What is the word? Sidetrack.
Digress.
But as always, things touch upon another. So is Bets also kind of discussing all the different efficacies that she and Ira usually talk about, efficacy in doing this, that, and other things, and how to model the combined effect of these efficacies in reducing the epidemic as such? Or is it kind of simple in a way that you kind of reduce the infectivity by so much and the transmission by so much and the susceptibility by so much, and then you hope that everything multiplies?
I haven't read the paper, so but I presume there will be an outcome of that.
Have we actually got a copy of the paper, Dennis? I was just trying to look.
Yeah, there's one called Challenges 4521, which means means 5th of April. That's the one I was just checking. Betsy's that's the one she's sent to Hans to have a look at. So it's
I couldn't find the folder, but I've got it now.
It's at that stage.
It's very much its design strategies.
Yeah. And modeling can help design trials, and
Yeah.
not the other way around. Not trials can inform modeling. Which I think would be needed here, to be honest. I mean, I'm just skimming through it. There is a challenge of evaluating vaccine efficacy in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll read it as well. I haven't.
Yeah, and indirect effects. Yeah, so it is touching, but yeah. Okay. Okay, well, anyway, we can discuss that. The other thing to note, Glenn, is there's a paper out today by the BDI group at Oxford talking about, so they're really developing a within-host modeling using phylogenetic data to understand, to infer the transmissibility, and they will plan to use that in modeling. They mentioned there, but that paper is in Science, it's coming out today, and it's really about bridging, they call it within host and between, but it's focusing on within host. I put the reference there, and I think maybe a sentence or two from that understanding.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Sorry, where have you put the reference, Jasmina?
In the
Is it?
it's where Glenn asked for references. It's
Oh, okay.
It's the part
Okay.
C.
In the paper, yeah.
Yeah, in the paper. Oh yeah, I haven't put it in. Shall I put the paper in the?
Well, I was just wondering if you put it in the chat, that was all. I was looking in the wrong place
yeah.
for it. That's just me.
But I just glanced through the vaccination paper, which has all I don't know, but many of the interesting section names or chapter names. But I noticed that that paper is strictly structured according to the challenge of doing this, the challenge of doing that, the challenge of doing that. That was the first structure we talked about, whether each section should start with a word, the challenge of something. It's okay that the papers have different tones in that sense, because our paper now is quite different in structure. It does not start with the challenge of, the challenge of, the challenge of anymore.
Yeah, no, that is true. In fact, the word challenge comes up quite a lot, but we don't really identify very discreetly what the challenges are.
No, but it's okay. I mean, in this challenge volume, that some really structure according to, because I think that the challenges that Beth, so whoever is writing the paper, have written are very well formulated, the ones that I saw, the section headings. But maybe it was easier also in vaccination to pinpoint exact questions. I mean, how do you measure infectivity? How do you measure total effect? How do you, and that's what the section headings are about in her case. No, I like our structure, which is more kind of discussion-like or structure-like.
So which paper were you referring to?
Now, if you go to challenge 4.
Challenge, right, okay.
The most recent one, who was called 5/4/21 or whatever.
It's in 4A, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I did have a look at the previous version of this, just to try and tie things up a bit more.
But I think it's easier when it's a much tighter topic in a way, whereas ours is quite broad and discursive.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe nice to have a mix of those anyway.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we started with the idea of having a fairly uniform structure, but some topics have naturally lent themselves to one format and others to a different one. And I think we can't straitjacket everything. You just have to let it go as it seems most natural for the particular topic.
So I wondered whether people had any comments on, because I added a section on environmental transmission, which wasn't there before, and that led me to think that maybe we should also say something about vector-borne disease, which I haven't written yet. I was just thinking in terms of a more general kind of pandemic preparedness. We don't, there's a kind of underlying assumption that the next pandemic will be a respiratory type problem, but that may, that may be slightly too narrow. And I just wondered what people thought of the merits of that argument, and whether we should expand to vector-borne.
So first of all, it's a very big topic. So
Sure.
I mean, I think if you are saying anything, then you kind of have to have a separate section.
Yeah.
That was my thinking. And then because, I mean, to start off with, the malaria stuff, which is a vector-borne, is the origination of epidemiological modeling in a sense with Ross and Hudson. So then you have to give it some time. So, so my question is whether we talk at all, and if we talk at all, then we have it as a separate section rather than within environmental transmission.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment I've put it down as a potential separate section, but I wasn't imagining necessarily it being a very long section, but maybe referencing some previous articles. Another option I thought of was maybe to pick that up in the discussion, So what
were you thinking? How would you pick it up in the discussion?
Well, so just to say that, that the current thinking is that the most likely sort of, I guess, future pandemics are likely to be, I guess we thought it was going to be a flu virus, but, maybe another coronavirus. But that there are obviously other kind of modes of transmission and
one argument might be that for a vector-borne disease, you do need vectors, and so you might have a large outbreak, multi-country outbreak, but somewhat the global spread of it will be hampered by the lack of a vector everywhere around the world. While the reason why this is really a pandemic is because it just plays on human interactions, which are ubiquitous in the human population. That might be a hook.
Yes, but it would be maybe less global, but can still be quite global.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly.
Because you have this temperate band around the world where things could spread.
Absolutely. And then it becomes a justice issue. Sorry, Jasmine. Then it becomes a justice issue because it's.
But I did have that sense of, when I was going through the paper, that maybe we're overly focused on, the northern hemisphere, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you should. So then you have to draw the attention to they're more controllable as well. Because, for example, with the spraying of mosquitoes or having I can't think of the English word, when you have different mosquitoes that will kill the mosquitoes. There's the strategy that Azra Ghani kind of works on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so in a sense there are different control mechanisms, and you have to mention that, and then you have to mention the sort of the spraying, and maybe it is better a discussion point that just suggested, and then you reference just some key papers.
No, but isn't it then better not to have it and just say in the beginning that we concentrate on contact to contact between humans?
I think it's probably easier. I mean,
a sentence like there are many kinds of diseases, but we will concentrate on those that are spread between humans, because then you have not only vectors, but all the fungal ones, and then the other ones, and then.
I mean, one could refer back to the previous volume, which does have sections of challenges for vector-borne and.
Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Of using the previous Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure work has moved on in those areas over the last 5 years,
Sure,
but
yeah.
you know, we can't do everything, and
Yeah. Okay, so maybe that's the
kind
best
of customary in a discussion to point out the fact that you haven't solved every problem. So I kind of thought that was not, maybe isn't a bad place to have that.
And then you can say that but the only thing is that our title is Understanding Pandemics, and in, you know, the pandemics that have happened haven't been from vector-borne diseases. So
Yeah.
that's our cover for just saying it in the introduction.
But I suppose
and then covering up.
You could. So I was thinking of, you know, with climate change, etc., then vector-borne diseases might become more important, and therefore may be a source of a future. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
I think you should
sure
say
what the
that saying
definition of pandemic is.
saying that sentence, Glenn, makes sense in the discussion, just to
Yeah.
preempt a possibility.
Yeah.
The other thing, while we are talking about this part of the environmental, so there is a paper, and I have to dig it up where exactly it was, but there was a paper, I think last year or the year before, that talked about humidity and pollution as factors for spreading diseases, and it was either Science or Nature paper. And what they did, basically, they had the beta, the transmission probability, that was fitted to what environmental factors are, pollution or humidity, etc., and discuss how it may spread better in cities versus rural situations, etc. So I think we should mention that in the environmental thing. I'll dig up the paper and maybe just add a sentence of what it says and what's the purpose of it.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, in general, that environmental section is kind of lacking good references, I think. So if people have got any suggestions, that would be handy.
I think there'll be a lot more work to come because there haven't been. I mean,
yeah.
around how it's spread in London versus in Devon or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, there was a paper from the Netherlands, I think, which was looking at environmental, like, I'll dig that out. That was looking at, there's a statistical model, but it was kind of showing evidence for environmental transmission, I think. Or, environment and pollution effects on either transmission or severity.
Of COVID?
Yeah.
Okay, and they said that it was more in a sort of city versus rural. Was that
well, actually, in that case, they had evidence for it being rural, but then they were pointing to sort of rural forms of pollution in the Netherlands.
That's very counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Maybe think about whether we want to put the reference in before we do.
Yeah. I need to reread it because it kind of came out last summer, and I read it and thought that kind of looks interesting, but.
So what are the sort of remaining tasks then?
So I think if people are happy, I think with the, so I need to write a discussion, which I didn't quite get to at the beginning of the week, but I think following that, I think just a bit of tidying up of the references and adding the ones that people have suggested, I think we're probably ready to send it to Hans. I don't know if Valerie and...
Yeah. I think that sounds good. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously, we don't want to leave him big gaps, but yeah, I think that's fine.
Do you think that the size will be accepted in the sense of how many pages? Right now, the manuscript is what, 20? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's about 10,000 words, including the references.
I think that's fine as long as it doesn't get longer.
I think modelling was always going to be a long one, really. I'm surprised it hasn't gone.
Yeah, well, obviously from the discussion this morning, it may grow slightly unless anybody's suggested bits that can be cut out.
I think the general rule in rewriting is, never use one word where none will do, Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's saying useful things,
Yeah.
I can't imagine that the referees are going to.
I mean, if required, I'm sure it could be cut down quite a bit. But on the other hand, I kind of think that a very, very clipped style is not always that easy to read. I mean, you know.
Well, why not get Hans's view on it? You know, if he says it's a bit too verbose, then we can think about cutting it down, but hopefully he won't.
The other person that I spoke to recently, and he said that he would be happy to read through the paper because we never got Mark Chaplin to read it, is Philip Maney at Oxford.
Okay.
And I said to him that I will send him a version when it's ready, so he does one read. So I don't know if you want to send it to him after Hans or simultaneously.
I would have thought simultaneously, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would.
Because it would be, I think he would be very good at also if there is more within host, they're experts in that in there. So
yeah.
Okay. So then maybe when you're ready to send to Hans, we send it. I'll send you Philip's email and then you can just send it to him. Or do you want me to send it?
Well,
but now, if I understand correctly, we first have to integrate all the comments and references, and from this last version, there are at least 6 or 7, I think.
Yeah.
Versions.
Oh yeah. So I mean, in a week's time.
Yeah. I mean, next week. We're happy to send out the version to Hans and Philip without.
That comes out in a week.
Next Friday.
Yes.
I think we should integrate the references, work a little bit on what we discussed today at the environment vector and put the sentences in, and then have another version. If people have a chance to read it next week when this is in, fine. If people don't have a chance to read it, then we send it to Hans and Philip towards the second half of next week, and we then reread it. I don't think there will be any drastic changes, and if people are busy next week, then it's fine to send it after Glenn has done most of these talked about changes now.
If somewhere in the file name we can write preliminary version or something like that.
Yeah,
of course.
That's completely true. But is Glenn happy to do this last piece of putting all the comments together? I guess that it's true that most of the comments are kind of short, like here's a reference, here was a wrong word, here was this and that. So
they don't look too tricky to integrate, I don't think, from a quick look through, but I haven't, I'm happy to give it a go. One section actually, Jampi, that I did wonder whether needed a bit more referencing or a bit more explanation or cutting possibly, which I think you originated, which is to do with the idea of multi-scale modeling and simplifying models. I could be misallocating that to you, but
okay, no, I can.
But I was wondering.
Take a look at that. Okay.
I was wondering if it could. I feel it could do with it being either being very short or being a bit more explicit. So I was kind of wondering what kind of methods that we were thinking. So I've suggested things like lumping of Markov processes or developing PDE representations of stochastic models, that kind of thing. But I'm not quite sure if you or anyone else has got other ideas for what kind of techniques are available. Okay. I think that is from a modeling point of view, I think that's a really interesting area which we don't really.
It is, because it complicates theoretical analysis and things like that as soon as you start messing with it. But okay, I don't think I commented on that now. I'll take another look if I may, and then maybe
that'd be great. Thanks.
Send in second version of my comment towards the evening or something like that, or tomorrow morning. Okay, multi-scale modeling, etc.
Yeah, it's just before the section on uncertainty. It's the last paragraph of the
That is the
section.
aspect that Philip has expertise in, the multi-scale modeling and the PDE representation, growing on domains, etc. So
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah.
so that would be sort of I can specifically ask him if you want for some key references, and maybe we can ask Ruth Baker who kind of does. Well, I mean, we can
Yeah,
ask
that's
if
true,
we
yeah.
need someone else, we can ask. But let's
Yes.
that's a good point. Sorry, I didn't think of it when I remember talking to Philip
No,
about it, but I didn't say it here.
I'll check what I can contribute, and then other people's contribute. It's perfect.
Great.
Yeah, thanks. So that's probably all we need to do today, I think. Unless anyone else has got any other comments. Also, Lisa, I should say, sorry, I meant to say that I cut quite a bit of that last section because it never left chapter 7. So I think you'd
Oh, the
incorporated a
expert
lot of-
illustration stuff.
yeah, you'd incorporated quite a bit of text, but then I realized that it word for word was still in chapter 7. So I just
That's fine. I didn't spend very long on it, so don't worry.
thanks. Also, before we finish, Ben, I was just going to, well, and Valerie and Des, well, Des anyway, Dennis, sorry. What happened with the chapter of the data chapter yesterday, which I missed, and the chat and the estimation stuff?
And I missed it too. So
Are there any tasks?
The data paper had been restructured by Nigel, and I think everyone agreed that they liked the restructuring.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of the same, pretty much the same sort of stage we're at.
I think Nigel asked for the two of us to work on references for the life cycle section to try and ground it a bit more in
Right. Okay.
the current pandemic, rather than at the moment it's quite high level, I think. So I said I'd work on that with you. Estimation, again, we're very close to sending to Hans. There was a few suggestions in the meeting last night, which I just need to finalize, making some small edits and
Yeah.
a bit of a clarification on the introduction for UQ, but otherwise I think that's fairly close to being sent off.
Hans is going to have some work.
Mammoth tasks.
How
He
how
was
long
relatively
is Hans
free
going
next
to have
week.
to
This
read
is
these
being
papers, Valerie?
I'm sorry, Jasmina.
How long is Hans going to have to read these papers? It's so much.
As long as he takes, he's usually very quick. But he did say he didn't have any time. I think it was this week, but would have a bit more time next week. So I think he's going to get a bit deluged next week.
Right.
But we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully he won't take too long.
Sorry, I think I interrupted somebody when I spoke. Sorry.
But is there also any plan for the publication? Is it going to happen soon or in a?
But it'll just happen as papers get accepted. They will appear.
They will appear electronically. I mean.
Because the whole thing is electronic, yeah.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
the paper, it will gradually accumulate. It won't suddenly, appear. Which
Suddenly be there in one piece, right?
And
I
there
mean,
is no-
in a way, is a pity because it's sort of nice to think,
Is
Lord,
there
it comes
some
into
sort of
being.
threshold, Valerie? I mean, I was thinking that might be, one might think it's a bit of a mistake if it appeared with just one paper and just sat there with one paper for a month or so before the next one came along. It might be better for it not to appear at all until there are a reasonable number.
Yeah, I don't know what the system is for that. Maybe we should check.
We'll check that further down the line. I mean, I think
it would make
Well, I
sense.
agree, it would be nice if
there are one or two that really drag their heels, we don't want to have to wait for them. But otherwise, it would be quite nice to have get better impact. I feel if it sort of all comes out very close together.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I think, there's of course all sorts of things can go wrong, but I think most of the papers are look as though they could get submitted, you know, within the next month, say.
I would have thought
Valerie?
so. Yeah, I would have thought so. And then of course we're reliant on referees to do their bit and so on. But anyway, but I suppose even if the papers appeared when they were accepted, they appeared online, one could still have a sort of a, I don't know, a sort of launch when there's a reasonable number.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I haven't really considered whether we can get any publicity for it from the Newton or otherwise. If anyone's got,
I think the Newton will be very keen to get some publicity.
Yeah.
So
well, we might, but the Newton isn't always brilliant at publicity. So
no, that, I agree.
Other ways of getting publicity, we might, they'd be welcome. So if people, so I think that's a very good idea. So when, I don't know, allowing lots of time for the refereeing, you know, we might be talking about July or something, mightn't we? But I
don't know. Let's
hope. It would be nice. It would be nice when it gets to a stage where it's either all there or very nearly all there to get some publicity for it, I think.
Why don't we have a workshop, a one-day, half-day workshop where we invite people and then we can think about advertising the set of papers, and we discuss what we have, and we made it a brainstorming session.
Well, I think that's a great idea. It depends a little bit, perhaps, if it gets into a sort of holiday season when people aren't available. But in principle,
but don't forget whether we go on holidays and Surgeon, Dennis.
we don't go on holiday any longer.
We might be on holiday at home.
We're still available on Zoom, from our tropical island or wherever it may be. Yeah, no, I think that's a nice idea. We could.
And then we could write sort of somewhere and sort of an not an advertisement, but like well, I have to say I don't know what the word is, but where we kind of advertise this, maybe the conversation or something like that, where we discuss this is lessons learned, challenges left, papers.
Actually, I think that is a really good idea, although because it does involve writing another article. But
it's, I mean, a conversation, they keep asking me to write something. I've stopped in December writing. I've wrote a lot and then I just haven't got time now. But they keep asking me. So if we write a targeted thing about something that as a forum of experts we have all done, then, and I'm using here the sort of we, I think that would be quite a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's cross that bridge when we come to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's finish the paper first. We worry. Also because our vacations may just be not being in front of the screen for one day or something like that. That would
exactly
be a kind of
I mean, we should at some point all get together and actually meet each other. I don't think I have met anybody on this call in real life.
We did say a while ago that we sort of put in a plea to the Newton that at some point we would have a physical gathering for the programme. So it's down, you know, there's a placeholder for it, but until such time as people can travel around, it's all a bit.
I mean, I think yeah, and ideally it might be coupled with this launch, but I don't think that's going to fit in time.
Well, not if you, I mean, they are, I mean, when we discussed it, we said we really wanted it to be at a time when overseas people might be free to travel, which would mean in order for it to be worth anybody's while, it needed to be at least a few days meeting, not just a sort of an afternoon.
If we wanted a theme for, so the launch might be a separate thing, but if we wanted a theme for the workshop, then I think how to strengthen the network of epidemic modelers for the future would be a good theme.
Strengthen?
You know, the pandemic has brought together not just a whole lot of old lags like ourselves who've been doing epidemic modeling forever, but also a whole lot of fresher faces and people from different disciplines and so on. And trying to keep that kind of international research collaboration going in such a wide sort of network is, I think, a challenge. And at the same time as, you know, if one was presenting work developed to do with this volume, looking to the future, that will be a theme to link it to.
No, it's based on an old theory that having a beer together gives a different perspective to research collaboration.
Or
maybe still a
gelato,
valid perspective. I don't know.
Or a gelato. I'm not a beer person, but I'm very much a gelato person.
Okay.
Yeah, let me say it like this. I was.
And my flavor is Nochola, so.
Yeah, I was talking with Damien Clancy once on this, and our suggestion was to have the discussions in a coffee shop, either in Amsterdam or in London, whatever.
That's also possible.
Or in Rome. Sorry, I'm pushing for Italy.
Yes, it's a question exactly what kind of things you prefer. In Holland, you have this research institute, but I've never been there to the U-Random or something like that.
I've been there.
Organize meetings.
Not anymore. They were too successful. They met all the goals that were set at the start, so they closed it down.
That's
well, as a postdoc.
Whereas all the places that have not fulfilled the goals they were set are still going.
Rome is a good place to have meetings, but we have no research center as such in Rome. But as soon as the restaurants open again, then there are attractions in Rome as well.
I think there are
but
many
they're right
attractions
up close.
in Rome.
Yeah, just one or two.
I think Peter was kind of pointing out the nice ambiguity in the definition of coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Rome or in Amsterdam, you can get very different sorts of meetings, I think.
Different kinds of coffee.
Levels of productivity. Also, I obviously like an idea, but is this meeting not going to turn out to be just going to the pub and getting drunk? Which is what is probably happening with schools and universities. Universities, not schools. But now they are basically like some universities are reopening at the end of the year when it's probably not that useful for the academic year, and it's mostly sounds it might become mostly an opportunity for
mostly so
people have the assumption here is that they've done all the education remotely, but they now have to get all a year's socializing done in a short period.
And would our getting together be very, very different from this? I'm not really sure.
Maybe not, but maybe that's not that harmful.
No, I agree.
Anyway, so we first finish the paper and then we have all these decisions to make. But are we set then? Glenn courageously wants to have another round at integrating things. Then we post it on the Dropbox, kind of almost final version.
Then we have a cooling off period, and then it seems like it would be good to send it to Hans next week if we could. Yes. If he has time next week.
Yeah, yes. Sooner the better, I think now. When people are ready.
Okay.
Great.
Bye, I'm gonna have to go. Lovely to speak, everyone. But we're still planning to meet next Friday, right? Yeah, I'm gonna put my video on. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. So. Yes, we will have to read the final manuscript, and then we have already sent it, or can then send it to Hans or something like that on Friday.
Okay.
Is that okay, Valerie, or is it too far away?
No, whatever. Whenever you're ready, really.
No,
next Friday afternoon.
We could be ready earlier than Friday, effectively. But how?
Well, maybe we need to wait until Glenn's had a chance to put these various versions together.
Yes.
And then maybe he can take a decision on whether we need there are other issues to discuss before it goes to Hans, or whether it's in a reasonable shape to go off to Hans.
And it sounds
before next Friday.
It sounds as though Hans has quite a lot to read already next week.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, there are a number of things that have been talked of going. What has actually gone, if anything? Do we know?
I thought economics had, and
okay. Yes, I think that's right.
Has policy not gone?
Yeah, policy is done. Policy is submitted. So
Well
policies
done,
are
Lisa.
out of the thing. But
Thank you.
economics, yeah. And I think Ben was hoping to get estimation out of the way imminently.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get all the comments dealt with today. I've got a bit of time.
And we're not reading the estimation again, right, Ben?
If you want to, but
No,
yeah, there's no
that's-
obligation. And also we can make final corrections before submitting. So I think it'd be better to get to Hans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Super.
I imagine for each group we'll want at least one meeting after we've got Hans's comments to
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
see what to do, and if depending on what the comments are, that we may just need one meeting, or we may need a bit more.
Interventions, Miriam was hoping to get that one off in the next day or two, but I don't know whether she will. So I mean, there are a number, but that are sort of on the cusp, really.
Okay, but either we get an email during the week or else we meet on Friday.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Have a nice
Enjoy the
weekend,
rest of the-
everyone.
Yeah, and you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.